When I opened my door, I was staring down the barrels of two guns, and the men holding them claimed to be police. My heart stopped. They barked orders, shoved a fake warrant in my face, and said my property was under investigation. But something didn't add up. Their badges looked off, their nerves too real. I hit my panic alarm. Seconds later, sirens screamed, and the real cops arrived. The look on those fake officers' faces when they realized who'd pulled up. Pure terror. That's when I learned my HOA had sent them. Before we dive in, make sure you hit like and subscribe because stories like this deserve to be heard. It started like any other quiet afternoon. I was fixing a loose gutter outside when a black SUV rolled slowly up my driveway, tinted windows, no plates. Two men stepped out, dressed in tactical vests that said police, badges flashing on their belts. One of them called out my name, firm but oddly nervous. "Sir, we need to ask you a few questions about your property." "Step inside, please." Right away, something felt off. Their tone wasn't confident, it was forced. Their uniforms looked pieced together. And the SUV didn't have any department markings, just a blank front grille. Still, when someone yells police, your instincts freeze. I raised my hands, trying to stay calm. "What's this about?" I asked. One of them waved a folded paper in my face, said it was an inspection warrant from the HOA and local police. But when I tried to read it, he snatched it back. Then came the moment that made my blood run cold. The second man reached for his gun. "Sir, don't make this harder than it needs to be." I knew right then, something was very wrong. I stepped back slowly toward my front door, pressing the hidden panic button on my security system. The silent alarm pinged the real authorities within seconds. They kept shouting, demanding entry, threatening to seize evidence. I refused. Through my window camera, I watched them whisper to each other, sweating. It was like they were waiting for someone, or something, to go wrong. Then, distant sirens began to echo through the neighborhood. The two men froze. One looked back toward the street and cursed. Within seconds, real police cruisers tore around the corner, lights blinding red and blue. The fake cops stepped back, still holding their weapons, but their faces drained of all color. The real officers jumped out, shouting commands, "Drop your weapons. Hands on your head." That's when everything exploded, shouting, confusion, and then, silence. The truth came out piece by piece, these weren't cops at all. They were contractors hired by my HOA president, sent to intimidate me into signing over a disputed section of land behind my fence. And if that alarm hadn't gone off, I might not have lived to tell this story. The street looked like a war zone, flashing lights, weapons drawn, neighbors peeking from their windows, recording everything on their phones. The fake cops were frozen in my driveway, hands shaking, while the real officers moved in like a tactical unit. "Drop the guns." Now, the lead sergeant shouted. One of the imposters hesitated, a fatal mistake. Within a second, 3 laser dots appeared on his chest. He dropped his weapon and raised his hands, trembling. The second man didn't even try to argue, he fell to his knees, begging, "It's not what it looks like." The real officers cuffed them and dragged them toward the street. That's when I stepped out of my house, still shaking, heart pounding through my ribs. The sergeant turned toward me and said, "Sir, are you the homeowner? You did the right thing pressing that alarm." I nodded, still trying to process what had just happened. They said they were police. They had warrants, badges, everything looked real. The sergeant looked at the fake badges lying on the hood of their SUV and shook his head. "These aren't issued anywhere in this state. Whoever made them knew exactly what they were doing." As the fake cops were loaded into the back of the squad car, one of them muttered something that sent chills down my spine. "We were just told to scare him." That's it. We didn't know it would go this far. I asked, "Told by who?" He didn't answer, but the look in his eyes said it all. Someone had planned this. Someone with money, power, and something to lose. When the detectives searched the SUV, they found forged documents, fake inspection orders, a hidden body camera, and a list of properties marked with red flags. Mine was at the top. Later that night, one of the detectives came to my door. "You're going to want to sit down," he said. We traced the payments for their equipment and vehicle rental. I swallowed hard. "Who paid them?" He sighed. "Your HOA treasurer, acting under orders from the president." I felt everything inside me go cold. My own HOA had sent fake police to my home, and if the real officers hadn't arrived when they did, I might have disappeared into that black SUV without a trace. That night, I realized this wasn't just harassment anymore. It was war. The next morning, my driveway was still taped off, yellow lines fluttering in the cold wind. Reporters had already shown up, shouting questions over the fence. Did the HOA really send fake cops? Are you pressing charges? I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those fake badges, those guns pointed at me. I didn't just feel violated, I felt hunted. By noon, the detectives returned. They'd spent the night digging through phone records, payments, and emails. When they showed me the evidence, I could barely believe it. The HOA president, Mark Benson, had personally wired money to a private enforcement firm, a shell company with no business license, no address, just a prepaid account. His goal? Force me off my property after I refused to sign a boundary adjustment that would have handed him part of my backyard for a community pathway. It wasn't just intimidation. It was an organized setup, a fake police operation meant to make me comply out of fear. The detectives raided Mark's home that afternoon. Neighbors watched as officers let him out in cuffs, his face pale and silent. Inside his office, they found dozens of fake inspection orders and an encrypted drive full of property maps, all tied to homeowners who had fought back against HOA demands. My address was highlighted in red. By evening, the story had exploded online. HOA president arrested for hiring fake cops flashed across every news feed. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. People from across the country messaged me, saying they'd faced similar HOA threats, only I'd been lucky enough to catch it on camera. A week later, during the preliminary hearing, the prosecutor laid out the details. The fake cops had been ex-military contractors, paid in cash, and promised legal immunity if anything went wrong. Mark's defense? He claimed it was just a misunderstanding. The judge didn't buy it. Both imposters confessed, and the recordings from my security cameras sealed the case. Standing outside the courthouse that day, I looked into the cameras and said the only thing that felt true. When your HOA starts acting like the mafia, it's time to fight back. Now, my footage is part of a federal investigation into HOA corruption. And every time I see a black SUV drive past my house, I remember that day, the guns, the sirens, and how close I came to being erased over a strip of land. Weeks passed before my heartbeat felt normal again. The cameras were gone, the patrol cars stopped circling my block, but that tension, that feeling someone could come for me again, never really left. Every sound outside still made me glance toward the window. But what happened next surprised me even more. Neighbors, people who had stayed quiet for years, started showing up at my door. One by one, they told me their stories. Intimidation letters. Fake violation fines. Threats to remove fences or trees. Everyone had been too scared to speak out. Until now. We decided to act together. I filed a lawsuit against the HOA for criminal conspiracy, and within days, 10 other homeowners joined me. The media attention helped. Suddenly, the authorities had no choice but to investigate the entire board. The deeper they dug, the uglier it got. Fake permits. Misused funds. And a long trail of forged documents going back years. The HOA was dissolved by court order within 3 months. The president and treasurer faced multiple felony charges, and those fake cops are still awaiting sentencing. I stood in that same driveway where it all began, the place I almost died, and took one last look at the repaired gate, the same one they tried to force open. If there's one thing I learned, it's this: evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears a badge and calls itself authority. Homeowners everywhere need to know you have rights. No board, no HOA, no title of power gives anyone the right to threaten or invade your home. The footage from that day now serves as evidence and as a warning. Because when fake power meets real justice, the truth always wins. And if you ever find yourself facing intimidation from those who think they're untouchable, remember what I did. Don't run. Don't hide. Hit record and call the real police.